Mid-Ohio Foodbank's 204,000 square foot facility serves as a distribution site for feeding agencies across central and eastern Ohio. We partner with pantries, soup kitchens, after-school programs, senior meal sites, and shelters across 20 Ohio counties. These nonprofit agencies are at the front lines giving out food to hungry people in our communities every day. In order to accomplish this, we need partners in the retail industry. Our store donation program started in the late 1990s and continues to grow today. The goal of this program? To recover perishable and non-perishable products alike, such as meat, deli, dairy, produce, bakery, canned and dry items, personal and healthcare items. As a retail partner of Mid-Ohio Foodbank, your product will be picked up by the food bank or an approved member agency. All retailers will be receipted for the product either at the time of the pickup or within an appropriate time if no scale is available at your site. Thank you so much for being a partner of ours and helping change the lives of thousands of people right here in central and eastern Ohio. Hi, I'm Colin, and this is Steve from Mid-Ohio Foodbank, and we're going to take you through some products that we can and cannot accept here at Mid-Ohio Foodbank, starting with meat and fish. And Steve, we've got a lot of good products here. Let's start with some of the stuff we can take, like this meat product here that's in its original packaging and it's frozen. Those are two of the biggest things, aren't they?
Yeah, it needs to be in its original packaging, like you stated, and frozen, in a frozen condition. We always want it frozen before we pick it up.
And what a lot of our retail partners will do, as you see here, this is something that's probably on Manager Special. They'll freeze it on the day of its expiration or a couple days before perhaps, and we'll be able to pick that up when we do our pickups. You'll notice that this one has a little bit of freezer burn. If it's too bad, we won't be able to accept it, but a little is still acceptable. But again, the key there is that it's frozen on or before that expiration date.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
And again, you get an example of something that's just frozen. Again, here, not too much freezer burn on this, so this is a great product for us.
That's a good piece of meat.
It is.
Yeah.
And we do a lot more meat and protein items here because we've got a great volunteer network at the food bank that can sift through those products and categorize them for us. But one of the keys, though, we want to make sure that we have it in that different category, so you don't have poultry and beef in the same packaging.
Yeah,
there
can't be any cross-contamination. We need to keep the beef separate from the pork, and the pork separate from the chicken and fish and all that. It just needs to be in a separate own container.
So let's talk here about some products that we can accept.
Okay, well, this is a piece of meat that we've picked up, and you can see that there's a hole in the packaging. So it's been contaminated, and it's possible leaker, and there's no way that this would be acceptable. One of the rules is that if you wouldn't buy something because of its condition or wouldn't eat it because of its condition, then no one else should be eating it either. And so, and then one of the other things we have here is we don't know what's happened here, but for some reason this packaging has separated from the product and it's bloated. It's had some air in it or something. It may have been frozen and thawed out and refrozen. So we don't want to take anything like that either. And another example of something that's not tight with the packaging is this bacon here. It's loose, and it's probably the same reason. And even up here under the seal, it's got a little bit of opening on it, so it's been opened. So we wouldn't be able to use that in any kind of form or manner.
Very often, this becomes a leaker as well, right?
Oh yeah.
It starts dripping, and we can't take that.
Yeah. And then this meat here, you can see all three pieces aren't the same color. So something's happened to this piece of meat on the end here that's caused it to turn really black. And so that would be totally unacceptable to take. And the same with this here, it's leaking. You can see on the sides here that it's leaking, and it's not sealed properly, tightly, and it's brown, very brown, and looks like it may have gone just a little bit past its prime there, so we don't want to use anything like that either.
Sure. So the keys are on or before its expiration date, it gets frozen so that we can pick it up, and that it's in that original packaging that's got that tight seal on it too, so it doesn't become bloated or leak or anything like that. So there's an example of some meat products that we can and cannot accept here at Mid-Ohio Foodbank. So Steve, let's talk about some of the dairy products that we can and can't take here at Mid-Ohio Foodbank. This looks like a pretty good gallon of milk to me. I'm thirsty, are you?
Yeah.
We can take this one, certainly, right?
Yeah, it's got a good date on it, and it's sealed properly, and it seems like it's been stored at 41 degrees or below, but not frozen, so this is something we'd definitely send out and help people with.
So with all of our dairy products, it has to be in that little window between 33 and 41 for us to take it, correct?
Yes, yes, that's correct.
And eggs are obviously a big thing for us at the food bank, high in protein, something that a lot of our families request from us. These eggs look pretty good. I see one bad one in here. That's probably okay, right? We just don't want half of them to be bad or leaking.
Yeah, mainly as long as it's not leaking inside the styrofoam itself or leaking out the outside edges. And if like there's 3 or 4 of them busted, well then it may not be a very good one to take, but definitely we can use that.
And we will take other things like we have dips here, sour cream, those type of things. I notice that they're all in their original packaging and they still have that seal on them. That's really important. And obviously the date still needs to be a future date, not a past date.
Yes.
And that's the case here for all of these.
And all 3 of these fall in that category. They all look really good.
Let's talk about a couple of things that we can't take here. We've got some milk, and it looks like this milk has, for some reason, had some leaking issue in the past, and even though it still has a good date, we can't take that now.
Yeah. Yeah, the seal's definitely broken. You can see on the edges here that it is separated from the cap, and we don't know what temperature it's been in. It looks a little bloated. I mean, so it could have even possibly been frozen or something. But anything that's half full, there's some issue with it. And we're not sure what that is, so we'd rather just shy away from that and not have anything to do with that.
And occasionally we will get some dairy products that for whatever reason, like the yogurt here, the seal's broken or the packaging has been compromised in some way, and if that's the case, we can't take it. The safe rule of thumb is if you wouldn't take it home from the store, there's a good chance the food bank's not going to be able to take it and provide it to our families either. Yeah,
definitely. If it's something you wouldn't consume because of its condition, then others shouldn't be consuming it either. And this may have had a pinhole or something, or I'm not sure exactly what the cause of the problem is, but since it does have this on the outside, then it's probably not a good idea to use it.
So to recap here, the key really is that it's kept between freezing and 41 degrees for all these dairy products, and if that's the case, it's in its original packaging, it's not leaking, we'll be able to accept that dairy product. So it's probably a pretty good rule of thumb that if you don't want to take it home to your family, that we can't take it here at the food bank and give it to the families that use our system.
Yes.
So there you go, look at some dairy products that we can and can't take here at Mid-Ohio Foodbank. All right, Steve, let's talk a little bit about produce here. It's the fastest growing sector of food in our food banking industry. Feeding America, the national network that we're part of, says that we waste between 3 and 6 billion pounds of produce every year, either because it doesn't get sold at the marketplace or it goes unharvested and gets plowed back under by the farmers. So this is really nutritious product that we're trying to get a lot more of into the homes of the hungry families that we serve. Looks like we got some good looking stuff here too. Tell us about this. The cucumbers, peppers here. This is all really good nutritious stuff, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. Any of this stuff that is on a shelf and in good condition, we'd like to take. Once it gets to a point where they don't think they can retail it anymore, but it's still a usable product, then we'll be more than glad to take it.
So all of these vegetables are great products. We've got some fruit here too. This stuff looks like the grapes and raspberries, for example, that have been cut. They have to be kept at a slightly lower temperature. So again, kind of like our dairy, something between frozen and low 40s, correct?
Yes, and also I like this because the color's good. It's on its original packaging. It's tightly sealed. It's in a really good condition.
And if you get good grapes and good raspberries like this, you also end up with some pretty good juices, and we can take that stuff too, again, if it's not past an expiration date.
Yeah, you can see that the seal's tightly sealed on there and the date's good, so that's completely acceptable. And I really like the raspberries because there's no indication that it's molded, it's rotting or anything like that, and it's sealed in its original container, and that's very important.
So we will take this and within a couple days get it to the plate of somebody that needs that food. Yeah. Let's talk about, unfortunately, some of the stuff that we can't take for whatever reason here.
Yeah, there are several examples of unacceptable produce here. One are these cherries. They have signs of molding. They're decomposing, rotting, and And this is something that we would not want, you know, we would not want to take at all. And rule of thumb on anything like this, in any kind of donation, is that if you wouldn't use it because of its condition, then probably no one else would want to use it either. So we want to stay away from that kind of stuff. These strawberries right here are a really popular item. However, these are covered in mold. The packaging is damaged, so we wouldn't be able to accept that. And the bananas, as you can see, are black and busted open, and something like that is just, there's no need for it. I mean, there's no use that I can think of for it, so we'd like to definitely stay away from those types of products. And the melon, unfortunately, has some bruising on it, and it's in a fairly bad condition, so we wouldn't want to market it either.
So again, really keep those things that are cut items, keep them between 33 and 41 degrees when possible. The whole items, your potatoes, your apples, your onions, we can really take those at room temperature. Yes. Prefer them on the cooler side, but we can really take those things at room temperature and bring us more of that fresh, nutritious produce. We love it here at Mid-Ohio Foodbank. All right, Steve, let's talk about some of the baked goods that we take here at Mid-Ohio Foodbank. This is a pretty popular item, isn't it? Those fresh baked goods. Really, we can take them as long as they're not moldy and too far past the date. So this is an example of something that we will be able to take, even though it's a refrigerated or frozen product. It's not past the date. Looks pretty good. The packaging here seems intact to me.
It's intact. Yeah, it's intact. There's no problem with this at all. And then our retail partners, a lot of times, near the expiration date, we'll go ahead and freeze this to maintain its freshness. And there's nothing wrong with this once it thaws out to be used, and it's perfectly acceptable.
So these bread products, whether they're made by a manufacturer or at the store themselves, there's really no difference to us. We just want to make sure that there's still some freshness there. Here's another example of a popular item that's still good.
Oh,
we'll take that.
Yeah, good date, sealed correctly.
Now, it doesn't always have to be that nutritious bread stuff. Sometimes our families that we serve, just like we will enjoy an occasional cookie or piece of cake. And these look pretty good, don't they?
Yeah, it's all in the original packaging. You know, the date's good on it, it's sealed. It's really good.
So we will take some of those things for the occasional sweet tooth. We don't like to overdo it, but we want to make sure that we have some of these available in our pantries across the state as well.
Yeah, and we'll also take store-baked goods. Anything store-baked, as long as it's in the packaging that they provide, you know, and it's in a good fresh state, you know, we'll take it also.
Let's talk about a few of the things that we can't take.
Yeah, you can see here that these buns are pretty well exhausted. They're pretty flat and squished, and there's an open package here. One of the good rules of thumb is that if you wouldn't purchase it or consume it because of its quality, you know, then its condition, then probably no one else would either.
So this is kind of the double whammy. It's got squished down for some reason, and the packaging's open.
Yeah. And this one here also, you can see how the packaging has been compromised, so that would be completely unacceptable.
So baked goods, we can take them as long as they're not too close to that moldy time. Remember, we've got to get them into the food bank and then out to the homes of those families, so that we want them to be as fresh as possible when we get them in. So there you go, baked goods here at Mid-Ohio Foodbank. Steve, as you know, we have a great volunteer network here at Mid-Ohio Foodbank, and they'll take a lot of these non-perishable items that we're about to talk about and look through them all, inspect them all, make sure they're not too far past an expiration date, that the dents in the cans don't compromise the product. But anything that the retailers can do to help us out with that is much appreciated. So here's some examples of some cans that are still good, even though they might have some sort of dent or compromise in it. Again, they're not too far past the date or anything like that. But you can see there is some dent in this can, but the top and the bottom really aren't compromised, and that means that chances are the product inside is okay and we can take that.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest elements, is to just make sure that there's no breach on the can, on the top of the can or on the bottom of the can. And it really needs to have a label intact on it too. It needs to have the label fully intact. Or I mean, at least that we can make out what it is.
Sure, so we know exactly what it is, and the nutrition contents are important for us to know. We can take glass items. We typically don't take them in food drives, but for these purposes from our retail partners, we can take them, again, if they're not too far past the date and if they have that nutrition label on them. We can also take, obviously, boxes of food, And even if the box is broken in some way, as long as the product inside is still in its intact packaging.
Yeah, that's the trick, to make sure that if this is taped, and our volunteers will do that when they come in, they'll make sure that the inside is intact and hasn't been opened, and then naturally, you know, not past its expiration.
So there really isn't a need for the retailer to necessarily tape it. They can just
they can even leave it open.
Intact.
Yeah, they can leave it open, and then that's even better for us, really, because we can see that the plastic's
We'll have to go in there anyway, won't we? Here's an example of a can that's it's not going to work because that seal has a little bit of a dent in it. In that case, we can't take it. But again, if it's not too far past the date, and the top or bottom isn't compromised in some way to compromise the product inside, it's a canned good that we'll take.
Yes, because this is, you know, this could possibly end up being a leaker, and then it's hard to open too. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen when we open it, so we just stray away from things like that.
So there you go. We've got 6 million pounds of food every year that is handled by our volunteers. They love to get those canned and boxed items, so keep bringing them in to us here at Mid-Ohio Foodbank. Let's talk now about some health and beauty products. These are pretty important things for a lot of the clients we serve because they can't use their limited resources to buy things like diapers or paper towels or toilet paper, things like that. Those personal hygiene items, household cleaning supplies, those are all really important. And we'll take things like, for example, protein shakes, things like that you might not think of a food bank for, but certainly if it's in its original packaging and that seal's not broken, just like with the food, that's essential here too.
Yeah, that's the most important part, that it's sealed and in date.
And here's an example of some non-prescription medication. We can't take prescription drugs, but we certainly can take the non-prescription medication. And again, it's got to be fully sealed and not damaged in any way.
Yeah, vitamins are important, you know, and a lot of times, especially when you're food insecure, you're not getting the proper nutrition. So a good supplement may be of some benefit. So we'll certainly use that. And
we will take toothpaste, toothbrushes, things like that, and even makeup products and things like that. We get it all in, and it goes out very fast.
Oh yes, yeah, and you know, people want to look good. You know, I mean, especially like if you're trying to find a job or something. So things like this are really important.
The diapers are a big one. We know that here at Mid-Ohio Foodbank. These are one of the fastest moving items off of our shelves. And we can even take these if they're not in original packaging, or if something happened where the package got broken. As long as the majority of the diapers in here are still usable, we'll have our volunteers sort through them.
Yeah, we'd like the retail partner, as he gets ready to prepare this product, to discard any dirty ones or any wet ones, you know, that may have came from moisture or something, and they can tape it or leave it like this, and we'll tape it, because there's still a lot of good diapers in there, even though maybe one or two isn't good.
And we will take paper goods as well. We've got a big stack of plates here. These will come in handy at one of our pantry partners, or perhaps even a soup kitchen would order some of these from the food bank.
True.
So a lot of good examples here of some non-food items that we'll take at Mid-Ohio Foodbank. Those go a long way in the homes of the clients that we serve. So Steve, we've talked a lot about the products that we can take here at Mid-Ohio Foodbank. Well, let's talk for just a minute or two about some of the things that we can't take regardless of the condition of the packaging. Prescription drugs are something that we mentioned earlier. No matter the situation, we can't take those. We can take the non-prescription, but those prescription ones, we don't know who they were for. We can't take them here at the food bank.
And also like pesticides or toxic oven cleaners, they would be prohibited.
And same with baby food. That's actually something that's set forth by Feeding America, our national network. We'll actually purchase that in bulk as opposed to get it from our retail partners. And then home canned products, that's something that we'll see from time to time at food drives. Don't often see it from our retail partners, but it's important to note that we can't take home canned products. They have to have those nutrition labels on them.
Yeah.
That's essential for us.
Because they're a wonderful product, but just like you said, because there's no labeling on it with the nutritional value and different things, we can't accept it.
And we talked a lot earlier about some of the things that we can't take when you talk about perishable products. So for a lot of those perishable products, they have to be in that window of 33 to 41 degrees. I'm thinking specifically about the dairy and those cut produce items. And then obviously we don't want any of our frozen meats or anything like that leaking. That's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, they really do need to be frozen at time of pickup.
So there you go, some of the things that we can't take here at Mid-Ohio Foodbank. All right, so now you know exactly what we'll take here at Mid-Ohio Foodbank. Now the last step, but maybe one of the most important steps for drivers like Steve here, is we need to make sure that that product is packaged in a way that we can get it back here to the food bank. So here's a good example of a box that was properly packed by one of our retail partners, Steve.
Yeah, banana boxes are great for this for this items. They're all visible through the top here. You can see that it's all the same type of product, and it's also durable, and they're just really nice boxes. Now, if you don't have, if you're not able to get a banana box, we'll take it in any kind of packaging. But as long as it can be taken, you know, from your facility to ours without a spillover or anything like that. So banana boxes are the best, but we'll take anything.
And obviously we need to keep the frozen meats together, the dairy products together, the produce together, and these dry goods have to stay separate in a whole bunch of different boxes. Once you get one of these, well, why not magnify it? And then we've got a whole bunch of these that we can bring back to the food bank. It's already palletized for us. That's a great way.
Oh, yeah, that's
obviously
great.
Eases the burden on our transportation system, which is running in 20 counties every day.
Yeah.
You guys keep pretty busy, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
So once you become a retail partner with Mid-Ohio Foodbank, we're going to send our drivers out there to pick up that donation, or perhaps in some cases we might send one of our partner agencies, but you'll know who's coming to your dock door to pick up that donation from you.
Yeah, and then like we say, if it's us picking it up, then once we get it back to the food bank here, we weigh it up and categorize it and everything, and put it on a nice receipt for you so that you'll be able to identify what you gave, and you'll have a record of the poundage.
And that's important, obviously, for taxation purposes for all our retail partners. We could not do this work without our retail partners. So from the bottom of our hearts here at Mid-Ohio Foodbank, thank you so much.
Thank you.